we're going to talk today about crafting a plan. And so some of the discussions that we have here are going to kind of lead into what that plan looks like. So we'll have the opportunity to be able to kind of review that as we go step by step. But I think, for the first step, I'd like to just go to Kirby and ask the question. So, I think that we want to assume in this discussion that our audience knows ransomware. They know the definition of ransomware, but things are evolving over time. There's new variants and there's new types. So wondering if maybe you can just share with us to give us context of where we are here in the middle of 2021. What some of those variants and flavors look like and kind of what we're dealing with. I think that'd be a great place to start.
So then COVID hits, people are spread out, you're working from home, and people are now more likely to be working from a personal computer, or at least their personal computer is connected to the same network that their business computer is now connected to. And personal computers are twice as likely to be infected as a business device because they are lacking, any sort of resemblance that the business device has with their security presence. We've got a new shift to different industries now that ransomware is able to target. So the oil, gas, and mining industry has been up 47% in 2021. Manufacturing and wholesale trades have increased, and the technology supply chains are under attack now too. Any user that's unsuspecting is also an easy target for ransomware. So I mentioned Trickbot here. What Trickbot's going to do after you've enabled your macros, it's going to scan anything that it can on your device and then reach out to the other devices that it can talk to and try to find what data it can actually access. And then it's going to determine how valuable that data is. It's going to wait for, it knows that you probably have a backup solution and you probably have some sort of retention policy. So let's say it's 60 days, right? That's like a Microsoft standard. And then, so it's going to be patient. It's going to be encrypting things kind of silently, moving around in the shadows. And then when it knows that you've got all of your retentions are either compromised completely or gone, that's when it'll encrypt all your data so that you can't restore your data. The other kind of crazy one to me has been the ransomware as a service phenomenon. So this is an instance of GandCrab is one of them. And so, basically any dummy can just download this, ransomware as a service. And it's going to give you this nice little template that says, how do you want this to work? Do you want to fully lock out the computer? Do you only want to use a little bit of CPU usage? Do you want to wait for the lock screen until we start encrypting stuff? A bunch of these little small tweaks that can be made just with a click of a button, right? You don't have to know how to code. It's easy to do. And right there in that panel, you can determine how much Bitcoin to ask for. Over the last 2 years, what we found is the average downtime for a business when it's been attacked by ransomware has been 16.2 days. The average ransom was $84,000, and the median ransom is $41,000.
Just in the past 5 years, we successfully helped close to 20,000 companies and individuals retrieve their data successfully from ransomware. So those are the ones, that's score one for the good guys, but there's so many additional, people that are getting hit, and a lot of the numbers out there are staggering. It seems that with work from home, the four walls of the office have really been expanded, and it had to be done really quickly without thinking about how do I protect these users that might not be as savvy as some of those people that have locked down the server room.
So my advice would be to leverage a existing security framework as a baseline, really to help guide and develop a sound security posture that not only protects the organization from threats, but serves as that foundation for ongoing security and event management, as well as response and recovery. From our perspective as an MSP, we utilize the NIST framework, which enables us to organize cybersecurity activities and threats for our customers into, let's call them functional categories around identifying, protecting, detecting threats to the organization from bad actors. And it also enables us to better align processes around event response and notification, mitigation, and overall recovery strategies. And really, once you have that framework in place, it really serves as a vehicle for the ongoing review of the security posture and risk for the organization. And it creates that structure or pane of glass, if you will, for reviewing policies, implementing policies, processes, and identifying the tools that are necessary, really through that holistic risk management lens.
With any plan, I think that the first thing you have to do is take an inventory of what is your infrastructure. And I think that that's where the biggest fault is in today's ransomware response, is a misunderstanding of where their information is. You have to be able to listen to your devices. And that's kind of the biggest change in the last 2 to 3 years with big data, is the ability to listen to your audit. So if you think about it, you have your desktop audits, your mobile, you have your cloud, you have your network, you have your SD-WAN. Think of all the different components. Every one of them is producing data. And every one of them, when they're security related, are trying to prevent. So how do you know when it's failing? And that's the key. Because what a SIM does is it gets the information to a decision maker that they can see something and respond to it. You have to be able to get data from multiple points and say, are they agreeing? Do they have multiple faults? And the litmus test of this is ask yourself, how much spam do you get in your inbox? If you're an Office 365 user, look at the amount of spam. If you're getting spam, you're a target for malware and ransomware.
We have what we call 6, key ingredients for backup. It's got to be automatic, right? You should not have to be pressing a button for that to happen or plugging something in. It should be able to happen without anybody interfering. It should also be off-site, right? If it is in the same area, if you're going to your own, file server, that's just as likely to be infected as your endpoints or anything else. One of the key ones is your backups must be immutable. There should be absolutely no way that ransomware or any type of malware is able to change your files as they're protected. They should be granular, right? If you're able to, stop something quickly, you might only have a couple files that are infected or compromised. You should be able to restore just those. So a great example of that is something like, OneDrive or one of these other like cloud sync shares, where if you're going to restore, you're actually going to restore everything and roll back to a point in time with the entire thing as a whole, rather than just your compromised individual things. Number 5 here is point in time. So you should be able to roll back to a very specific point in time as to, when you know that your files or machines are then safe as that point in time, due to that plan and the audit that Chris just rolled out, you should be able to get to that point in time specifically with your from your backup solution. And then last, it should be flexible. Everybody's organization is different. We've all got our own little nooks and crannies, and you should be able to use a full suite of products to be able to make sure that all of your nooks and crannies are covered.
So I think people depend on the plan, but they're not always adapting the plan as their environment is changing. They're not always making sure as personnel leave and personnel come in, everybody knows what the plan is and their roles within. So I think that's a big component. As the environment changes, as they're using different applications, adopting cloud, the plan is never done. It's just an ongoing conversation to keep that plan up to it. And there's no widget that you can purchase that gets rid of ransomware forever. When a lot of people have missteps or they have vulnerabilities, it's because things change and they didn't really adapt to it.
We say, I'm going to get all this data, I'm going to understand and put comprehension behind it, and I'm going to focus on what is it that I need to detect in order to begin a response. What you have to have is the ability for your searching and what you're searching for to be state understanding, right? Think about the movement from a stateless firewall to a stateful firewall, right? We're getting to the point now of understanding data statefully. So every single SIM that uses a database as its primary means, in other words, I'm going to search this database, is an absolute fail. It will fail from a productivity point of view and fail from a detection point of view. Right? It's set analysis is not the way to understand data. And so you notice I keep on using the word models, and sometimes even in our company, sometimes we slip and we'll say rule or signature, but they're models, they're state understood positions. I understood what happened before. I understood what Gary did before. Gary only did 6 commands before, now he's done 20. That's a state difference. I can't just search it. And so that's where the industry is going. The industry is going in a situation of understanding data in a stateful manner. If you have a person who's searching every day for a problem, fire them. That's not the way you do business. You should be understanding what you're looking for and then write the models to detect that issue occurred.
We recommend formal security awareness training for end users on a regular basis, at least monthly. And what that'll allow you to do is kind of build in that framework for end user training, but also develop campaigns where you can test your users and run phishing campaigns against your user community to determine where your gaps are and what you need to do to either develop additional training areas for those end users, or structure and put together kind of a benchmark or risk score so you can improve the end user perspective from a security standpoint, and just help them develop a better understanding.
Thanks for everybody for taking the time. To the panelists, thank you for being part of this, and hope everyone has a great rest of your week.